Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Second Chance Overland. Another day in the shop. It is time to do some work on the 392 here. I've got a few things that I want to get done on this that I've actually wanted to get done for a little while now, and just now finally getting around to doing it. One of the things is actually something that we've wanted to do for a really long time, and that has to do with all the American Adventure Lab stuff in the back of the 392. I had all of this stuff installed at American Adventure Lab's shop in St. George, Utah. There's a video for that. I'll put the link up here for you, doing that whole install. But at the time, we did not do any kind of auxiliary power source for this thing. So it's finally time to do it. I need to get an auxiliary battery in there to power the fridge and some other accessories. When we did the cable on the tailgate, there is a light on it. We did not even wire it up because we knew eventually we were going to be going to do the auxiliary battery kit, so that will all tie into that. So I've got everything laid out on the bench ready to go, and we're going to get started on this. But first I got to remove all this stuff now, so get started on pulling this stuff out, and we'll hit it from there. Okay, so I got all the American Adventure Lab stuff pulled out with the exception of the top shelf and the rear bracket for the panels. And this is where we're actually going to be putting the battery and the charge controller here. So this is the American Adventure Lab bracket. We ordered it powder coated black, texture black, but you can get it however you want. You can actually just leave it raw aluminum if you want, especially with it being underneath. But we figured we'll just take the extra step and get it powder coated texture black to match everything else. Now I did also get the extra battery hold down piece. So this is actually going to drop into here like this. There's a bolt here, a factory bolt that will hold this side down, and then just some screws that'll go into this plastic piece. The 392 is a little bit different back here compared to the rest of the Wranglers because of the way the exhaust and everything is. You don't have as much here, so you've actually only got this one little tiny storage cubby right here, and then just a little bit here. But this will be great for running the wires and getting things set up. So we'll have like a little fuse block, and run everything so that we can get everything nice and tidy. Somebody did say in one of my videos, I think it was actually installing all the American Adventure Lab stuff, that they thought it was stupid that you lose your cubby space back here by doing the American Adventure Lab system. But in all reality, if you have anything on that platform, you're not really going to be getting into here. Especially with how small this is, you're not going to have a whole lot. So this is actually perfect. This is one of the reasons why we're not too concerned about having the American Adventure Lab stuff on here and losing this space, is we're going to repurpose that space for the auxiliary battery, and it's all going to live nice and neat right underneath here. So we'll get started on getting all this put together, and I'll show you what we're going to do on this top plate. All right, so now we've got our cargo battery bracket on the bench here, so we can get started on this. I'm going to start by taking this hold down bracket off, but I also have my Redarc BCDC 1225D in-vehicle battery charger. So this will control the charge of that battery, and this is set up to live right there. So it'll be nice and tight. The battery will be underneath. We can route our wires however we need to and get this where we need it. So I'm going to pull this bracket off, get the battery charger mounted up, and then of course we've got to figure out how to do all the wiring. Okay, so we've got our battery and Redarc BCDC mocked up, set up. This is all going to have to come back apart so I can get everything wired up properly and all that fun stuff. It was a very tight fit with this top plate. Really did have to work at it. So what I did with the bolts is I actually got a tapered, I forget what they actually call them, but I actually got a tapered bolt, and then I countersunk underneath on that plate so that it would fit relatively flush. The bolt head would, so it's not protruding into the battery. So that really allowed me to be able to actually get this down, but it's still a really tight fit once the battery is in there. So we're going to go ahead and get this kind of mocked up, start working on getting things wired up. Looking through the instructions, there are some wires that we will not be needing. Instance, this yellow wire right here is for if you are running a solar panel as an option to charge your auxiliary battery. We do not have that at this point, so that is taped off. This green wire is for an optional LED that we are not going to be running. This orange wire is what selects the charging profile. There is a chart in the instruction manual for the Redarc system. Depending on what you do with this wire right here, this orange wire will determine how much it allows it to charge at what rate, essentially. So depending on what battery you have, you don't want to charge it at too high of a rate. So this one, I think it's 14.6 volts. So taping this off puts us right at that range. So if you hook this up to different things in different ways, it would change, to 15 volts to, 15.4 volts or whatever. So important wire on that one. So we are going to be leaving that off. So of course we've got ground that we have to figure out. We've got, let's see, the brown wire here is going to go to the positive on the battery. Of course, we'll need to create a negative for the battery as well. Red is going to go to power on the starting battery. And then this blue wire here has to do with, it's something that depending on if you hook it up or not, does different things. So this we're actually going to hook up to a ignition source. So it will tell the system when the ignition is on, so that it will know that the alternator, the vehicle is on and the alternator is running, so that it can actually draw the power to charge the battery. All right, so I'm plugging away on getting the auxiliary battery and the Redarc BCDC 1225 installed in the 392 so we can power the fridge and the light on the tailgate table. So here is the tray from American Adventure Lab. Got the battery down below here, and then the Redarc BCDC 1225D mounted to the top. So there are a number of wires that we do not need to use. The yellow one is for solar panels, and then the green and the yellow, I'd have to look again, but we don't need those. So really the four wires we need are the brown, which is going to go to the positive on the auxiliary battery. We need the black, which runs to a ground, which you can see I took the side panel out that the subwoofer lives in, and right up back in there on the wall is a stud for our ground. So I ran to that. Obviously it's not tight. I will need to hook another black cable to the negative on the auxiliary battery and run that up to the ground as well. Red and blue are needed. So red is your power. So that will run up to the front to the battery, and then blue is an ignition source wire. So that tells the Redarc when the ignition is on to go ahead and power it up, I guess. So as you can see, I kind of ran these down the side underneath the carpet there. I'll try to lightly show you where I ran it. Just ran it up through the carpet and then tucked it in to the kick panel all the way up. For the blue wire that needs to go to an ignition source, I ran that to the auxiliary switch harness that's in the passenger side floorboard. On these, I think every 392 came with the auxiliary switches. these right down here. And what you get with that is there are 4 wires underneath the hood, 1 for each corresponding switch. And then there are actually 6 of them in the passenger footwell taped up to a harness there. So you've got the 4 for the switches. You have 1 that is a fused wire direct to the battery, so it's constant power. And then the 6th one is an ignition source wire. So that's what I actually tied into, was the ignition source wire for the blue wire for the Redarc. Still got some stuff to finish up here. Obviously a lot of stuff to put back together, but it is coming along. Now, as far as powering the accessories, I have this fuse block here, so I'm going to run from the battery to this fuse block, and then I can tie everything in right here. So I'm going to get started on wiring up this fuse block, finish up wiring the battery and the Redarc. This bracket does get bolted down. There's a factory bolt right here that you line up and bolt it down, and then it came with some screws to just tap in on this side into the plastic. So I'll get that going. We'll make sure that the Redarc is working properly, and then we'll get moving. All right, so I got all my wires routed, got the side panel put back in. I'm getting ready to put all the American Adventure Lab stuff back in. I'm going to show you the wiring because I did run into a couple of problems here. So I've got all the wires laid out here. I've taped them to the tub, and I did have a couple of problems. So one of them is I tried to go direct to that stud on the passenger side wall, which is back behind this panel here. And I tried to go just right underneath here, but the problem is this is so tight to the wheel well that just that thickness of the cable, the gauge of the cable, would not allow this to go back into place properly. So then I thought, well, I'll just ground it to the crossbars that get bolted into the tub. The problem with that is once I did actually start to put the panels back on and everything and you know, bolt everything down, I was starting to get some sparkies. So I figured that probably wasn't a good idea. So the trick on these grounds is to go all the way up to where basically the carpet is that meets that panel, and then go up. And when you pull it apart, you'll see back in here, there's a factory wiring loom. So if you kind of follow that and then drop down to where the stud is, if you do that, it'll go back together nice and easy and clean. So yeah, so finally, time to start putting this thing back together. So I got all the American Adventure Lab stuff back in the back, and this thing is all set. I now have power to the fridge running through the auxiliary battery that we installed, and I have a working light on the tailgate table. So that has been a long time coming. I'm so glad I finally got this project done. It's going to be so much nicer to be able to run this fridge off of that auxiliary battery and not worry about it draining the main battery or any of the other stuff that comes along with it. So I'm really happy with it. And yeah, on to the next thing. So I hope you liked the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you on the next video.